Hey everybody, wanted to do a quick update on a different subject. Normally I show myself shooting or reloading or doing something of that nature, but I wanted to cover a topic that I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, is rifle scopes. I like a few brands. I've owned several brands. I've owned Bushnell Elite series. I've owned the Athlon Cronus line. I've owned Vortex Razor Gen 2 rifle scopes, and recently I've decided to go to a little bit higher end glass because as my eyes age, I'm sure you can see the gray in my beard. I just don't have the same sharpness in my vision that I used to, and on days where there's mirage, it's becoming exceedingly difficult to cut through that and to really read where the bullet's going. And because of that, I've decided to spend money and upgrade optics. I did a review a little over a year ago of my Terminus Zeus, where I was shooting with my friend's ZCO, or Zero Compromise Optic scope. And a lot of people asked me why I switched back to the Vortex Razor Gen 2. My answer at the time was that I had borrowed it and I couldn't afford one at the time. Since then, I've been able to upgrade my scopes, plural. So the reason for that, or I'll get into what I'm doing anyways here in a minute, but what I'll say is I still like Zero Compromise optics. I have one now. I bought one with their ring set, and it works very well. I like it a lot. It's their Impact 1 reticle. It's a very simple reticle. It's just crosshair with the 2/10 increments along the horizontal and the vertical, and then just the center dot. It's very nice. I like it a whole lot. You can look that up on their website to see what I'm talking about, but it's a very good scope. I have that on a Voodoo 22, so I'm shooting 22 this year. I said in earlier videos that I was going to get into 22 this year. So I have that on my 22. It parallaxes down to 25 yards, makes seeing the impacts very easy, and I love that scope for that purpose. For my centerfire, I went with the Tangent Theta with the Gen 3 XR reticle. I really like the bigger center dot. It makes it easier for me to focus on covering the center mass of a target and not focus so much on the wobble zone. It helps me see, I can actually see bullet trace with it, shooting a centerfire projectile, and it just does very well. So I wanted to review the two scopes, kind of do a side-by-side comparison, and tell you why I like them in the application that I'm using them for the two different rifle platforms that I have. So I have the Tangent Theta on my Terminus Zeus that I'm shooting 6 Creedmoor with, and then I have the Zero Compromise optic. Sorry, I just realized in this video, for some reason my eyes always look very squinty, but whatever. Anyway, back on topic. But for the 22, I have the Zero Compromise optic, and I like them both for different applications, but I'll do a side-by-side, not visual comparison, because it's very hard to get through the scope images that are representative of actual clarity and contrast and all those things. Dark Lord of Optics has great reviews where he contrasts the two, and I think he covers that a lot better than I can from a technical perspective. So I just wanted to show some of the features, show what my samples of one of each come out to, and just kind of give my thoughts as to what's better for the application. So we'll look at that right now. Okay, so here you can see my two rifles. I have my Terminus Zeus and my Zero Compromise optic sitting, and my Voodoo 22 sitting here Notice I did go with the EC tuner over there. I love them. I also love the Atlas bipods, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So I like the Zero Compromise Optic 422, and I'll show you why. I apologize for the kind of movement, but let's look here at the turret and we'll get it to focus. So it parallaxes down below 25 yards. It has 25 as the written number, but it actually goes a little bit below that. I have no issues with it. The turret on the ZCO is very positive. It goes 5 mils below. And you can lock it back in place. Show you the little detent that comes out. And I also like the way that the numbering on the turret goes, but I wanted to show you. Okay, so we're coming up on a revolution, and you see the the little cap screw, the detent pop out, and we'll lower it, and you will see it come down. There it goes. And that actually is lined up. I realized the angle made it look otherwise. We'll come over here. I'll show you what so these turrets are actually very similar in this sample of one. Oh, doesn't want to go back down. Sorry. There we go. It's a little bit difficult to handle with one hand. It's not hard to manipulate. So with the 22, I really like and prefer the ZCO because of a couple reasons. Number one, it parallaxes down a lot easier. You're not going to go beyond probably 250, 300 yards very much. So you're adjusting your parallax setting very little, okay? With the Tangent Theta, all right, we'll go to this. There are no markings. It'll parallax down to maybe, I don't know, 50 yards or so, maybe less than that. It may go down to 25. I can't remember because I don't really use it for the 22. I will come out and say this right now, or hang on, let me show the turrets. So here's the turrets on the Tangent Theta. I'll show the detent come out. There you go, right here. There we go. It's very similar on the other turret. Shot this yeah, very crisp. I shot this in a match not that long ago, so it's pretty dirty. I have not cleaned it yet. This is by far, in my opinion, the turrets are better. That's just my opinion. I like the way they feel a little bit more as compared to the ZCO. And they're easier to zero just because you don't have to have a tool. The ZCO turrets are not hard. You essentially, make your adjustment, dial it down. There's 2 set screws on the side. You loosen them up, you slide your turret around to 0. You won't hear any clicking. Put it down, lock it down, and then tighten them, and you have your 0 stop set. So it's pretty simple. With these, you just, well, I guess I have them pretty tight. Yeah, so as I was saying, if you want to re-zero the tangent theta turrets, you essentially just, you know, and Orkin from Primal Rights, or I guess that was his, Greg from Primal Rights, that was his sniper's hide username. Um, you know, I mean, you just undo this, you would pull up, slide the turret around, put it on 0, and then, you know, once you've got your point of impact set, you're good to go. And that's why I prefer the tangent theta turrets and how they zero. I feel they're a little bit better. I like the spur mount quite a bit, but the ZCO rings that I think are made by Arc for them are really nice as well. So I'll kind of summarize my thoughts here in just a second. So to summarize the thoughts on these scopes, let me talk about the ZCO first. So I prefer it for the 22 because of the ease of parallax down to 25 yards. It has a little bit more elevation. I think right now in the current settings I'm just under 28 mils. I said something incorrect earlier. I said that it goes 5 mils below 0. I meant 5/10. But the ZCO is a great optic. I think you know, everybody wants to compare glass. I think optically they're very close. The ZCO is not quite as good optically in a few instances, and I'll get into that here in a second. But for 22, I can see some trace. I'm not the best at seeing it myself. Sometimes I can't. I don't know if it's an eye limitation or not, but I can see it sometimes with the ZCO. I like the cleanness of the reticle. I like how fine it is for 22. I really am very fortunate to have the ability to buy both of these. So, you know, I'm just blessed in that way, right? If you had to choose between two, you would not need to feel shorted by the ZCO at all. If you had to, and I'll cover like tiers of scopes here in a second. If you can afford the ZCO, I'd say go for it. Okay, you know, there's like $1,000 difference. I think if the price, I don't know, pricing is changing so much here lately due to our economic situation, and I don't want to get into that. Sorry. So that's, I wanted both scopes because I wanted to know which one was truly the better scope. And I think in certain applications the tangent theta edges out the ZCO, and in certain applications I think the ZCO it has the edge. I think because of the way that the ZCO parallaxes and has additional elevation, I would use the ZCO in a 22 format before the tangent theta. For centerfire, I prefer the tangent theta, and I wanted to get into this. So for most PRS matches, I mean, you can set the parallax out to like a 500-yard distance, and you'll be fine. You won't have to touch it at all over the weekend unless you're zeroing for anything beyond 250 yards. In my experience, I haven't had to touch it, and I've had no issues. That is how good the tangent theta parallaxes the image, right, or removes parallax from an image. There's a little bit more glass clarity in the tangent theta. I feel like the contrast is a little bit better, and I feel like the image is more realistic. The ZCO is a very bright image. I think it gets it from its Collis heritage. I think they're still made in Austria, or at least part of the assembly is. So maybe they've adopted some of the best of Collis and Night Force, and then even made it better. Because I've looked through Collis and Night Force, and I definitely think the ZCO is noticeably better than either one of those. I think the ZCO scope, though, for my 22 is the way to go. If you put it on a centerfire, just know that you'll have to parallax a little bit more. Honestly, the image resolution is so negligible. It shouldn't really matter to you. It is a more bright image. It's almost unnaturally bright. I notice it. And then mirage is why I feel like the tangent theta edges out the ZCO for centerfire. And let me explain why. The barrel on a centerfire rifle will heat up more than the barrel of a 22 rifle, and you can get barrel mirage. And with my Vortex Razor scope, I used to get a lot of image distortion even shooting at 100 yards, and it was because the barrel would heat up. I shoot kind of fast, maybe I shouldn't, but regardless, the tangent theta will cut through that, and I don't get image distortion. The ZCO does a much better job than the Razor did, but I still see some of that mirage from the barrel. I don't get it with the tangent theta. It cuts through it. The tangent theta handles mirage in natural terrain situations better than the ZCO, in my experience. Not so much that if your barrel is not putting out mirage that it's going to matter. And you know what, there's a lot of people shooting a ZCO that outshoot me, and for that matter, there's people shooting other scopes that outshoot me, so that isn't really the point. I'm just saying from my perspective, that's why I think the tangent theta outperforms just slightly better than the ZCO. Both are top tier. Both are, I'd be more than happy to run either one on my competition rifles for either discipline, whether rimfire or centerfire. But that, I just wanted to explain why I prefer one over the other in the certain applications. But I think in 22 I like the ZCO a little better. For centerfire I like the tangent theta a little better. I think they're both great scopes. So let's talk tiers of scope. I've looked through the Leupold Mark V, the 7-35. There is no comparison, in my opinion, between that and a ZCO or a tangent theta. I've looked through the new Razor Gen 3. It's a good scope. It's a really good scope. It's not quite on the level yet. It feels a lot like Night Force 7-35. The glass is very good, but the turrets, the image resolutions, it's not quite there. A little bit of chromatic aberration. That's where you get the purple and the yellow or whatever around, say like my head right here, right? If I was on a white background, you might see some color fringing looking through a scope, or maybe in a snow, if there's a snowy day. You're not going to get that with these two scopes. So both of them, the edge-to-edge clarity, the lack of chromatic aberration, just sets them head and shoulder above the competition. I haven't looked through a Minox. I've heard, it's almost the same optically to a tangent theta, but the turrets aren't going to be the same, is what I've heard. But that's just what I've heard, so take that for what it's worth. Mechanical repeatability, both of these scopes are top notch. Again, you can't go wrong with either one. Both of the samples that I have track 100%. So, I'm very happy with them. I'd say flip a coin. I just have a preference for one, the tangent theta on centerfire, and I like the ZCO for my 22. Originally, I was going to sell the other and buy another one, but I feel like they both perform, in an outstanding manner for the disciplines that I use, or the applications that I use them for. So I'm going to have one of each. That's just how much I like them, and since I'm able to have both, fortunately, I'm going to use them. But I've compared them to Leupold Mark V. The Collis is good. It's a really good scope. It's not quite as good optically as either one. The turrets are very nice on them though. The Tangent Theta and the ZCO turrets. Tangent Theta turrets are the best. ZCO is very close. Collis is very good as well. Optically, the Tangent Theta is just barely the best, or maybe, I don't know, it just depends, factoring in barrel mirage, but Tangent Theta is better. ZCO is very close. The Collis DLR is getting there, but not quite there. Then you have like the Night Force Razor Gen 3, to my eye, right? And you got to make sure the diopter is set right on those. Talking about the Vortex Razor Gen 2, so let's say you can't afford $3,000 or more for a scope, no problem. I think you can find the Razor Gen 3 for less than $3,000, and I'd say that's a pretty good deal. If you can find a Collis DLR for that, I'd go with that. They track very well. I think both track very well. The Razor turrets are a little bit, they're not as good. The Collis turrets are better than the Razor Gen 3. Of course, that's subjective. That's my opinion. Okay. I also, so then you have another tier. If you go with a Razor Gen 2, so I'm talking sub $2,000. Razor Gen 2 is still a solid optic. I have one. Performs very well. I don't know what I'm going to throw it on, but I'm going to throw it on something. That's a keeper, right? Athlon Cronus, very good scope. Very similar optically as far as resolution and contrast and chromatic aberration. Turrets, or the Razor wins in turrets. The Bushnell XRS3 is a very good scope for the money. I think it's an outstanding scope, and Bushnell has been solid. It tracks very well. I've never had a Bushnell have a tracking issue. The Razor, I haven't had an issue. That my Athlon, I did not have an issue. So, that's my opinion. That's my review of these two scopes. And then I also wanted to go through some tiers of scopes if you couldn't afford that. And then lastly, the Arkin is a pretty good scope if you don't have enough money to even spend $1,000. The Arkin optics are very good for that. I've got a friend who has one. Pretty nice Riflescope for, I think, $450. So that's an option if you don't want to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on some optics, and that's understandable, and that's okay. I would say shoot what you have and be happy with it. I shot, the Razor and all the other things for a long time. I've just had a good year, and I've been able to buy these. So I hope this review is helpful to you. I didn't give a solid, hey, I love this and hate that, and I don't think I have to, because there's a lot of quality things out there, and we're very fortunate to have the level of manufacturing and quality optics that we have at this time. I think it's good to have the competition driving each other to do better. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I hope you get to go out and shoot soon.